The temperature inside his workshop hit 94 degrees by 9 in the morning. Not uncomfortable. 94. Not open a window. 94. The kind of 94 that bends the air above the workbench and makes the grain of the wood look like it's sweating. His neighbor, 3 miles down the same county road in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, had a window unit running by 7. It hummed all day, cost him $60-something on his electric bill, and kept one room tolerable while the rest of the house stayed an oven. Elias didn't turn on anything. He walked to the south end of the workshop, unhooked a length of wet burlap from the peg where it had been soaking overnight in a galvanized trough, and hung it across the open door frame in 3 overlapping panels. The burlap was heavy. It smelled like creek water and old rope. It sagged slightly in the middle, where the water had pooled in the weave, and when the faint morning air moved through the door opening, the fabric shivered once and went still. Within 3 minutes, the air at the center of the workshop had dropped. Not by 1 degree, not by the 2 or 3 degrees you feel when a cloud crosses the sun. By the time Elias had walked back to his bench, picked up his marking gauge, and set the depth for the morning's first cut, the ambient temperature at chest height had fallen 11 degrees. By the time his apprentice arrived 40 minutes later, it was sitting at 15 degrees below the outdoor reading. No electricity, no refrigerant, no compressor noise, nothing running, nothing plugged in, just water, fabric, and air, moving exactly the way water and fabric and air have always moved, if you understand what you're asking them to do. This is not a novelty. This is not a workaround. This is not something Elias invented or discovered or read about in a magazine. He learned it from his father, who learned it from his father, who was doing this in the same county before the rural electrification programs of the 1930s made the question seem irrelevant to everyone else. The technique has a name in material science. It has peer-reviewed data attached to it from institutions that study thermal dynamics and building efficiency. It has a measurable, documented, repeatable cooling effect that outperforms several categories of commercial products that currently retail for hundreds of dollars. The reason most people don't know it has less to do with how well it works and more to do with who profits when you don't. By the end of this video, you'll have the full method, every material, every dimension, every step, along with the science that explains why it works, the documented history of how this knowledge got pushed to the margins, and proof that the same principle is running inside buildings that serve tens of thousands of people on 3 continents. Start with Elias. Watch what his hands do next. If this is the kind of knowledge that should still exist, subscribe to Tradition Done Right and turn on notifications. Every video on this channel is built the same way. One real method, verified numbers, no filler. The next one is already in production. Elias was up before 5, not because the work demanded it, though it did, but because the morning hour before direct sun hits the workshop walls is the hour the building will hold on to all day, if you treat it correctly. He knew this the way he knew the weight of a properly set hand plane, not as a rule he had memorized, but as a fact his body had internalized through 10,000 repetitions across 30 years of working in the same structure, in the same Lancaster County summer heat, under the same southeast-facing roof line. He started at the rain barrel on the north side of the building. The barrel was wooden, iron-banded, and held roughly 50 gallons. The water inside was cold in the way that stored water gets cold overnight, not ice cold, but 10 to 12 degrees below the air temperature that had already begun climbing outside. He submerged the burlap sections one at a time, pressing each panel down with both hands until the weave had taken on as much water as it could hold. The saturated fabric was heavy. Each panel weighed close to 8 pounds, and he lifted them out with both hands, letting the excess run back into the barrel rather than onto the ground, where it would have been wasted. The panels went up on the wooden pegs he had mortised into the door frame years ago, specifically for this purpose. 3 panels across the south door, two across the east-facing window opening. The overlap between panels was deliberate, roughly 4 inches, so that no dry channel formed where air could pass through without contacting wet surface. He had learned this detail from his father, who had learned it from his, making the method at least 4 generations continuous in his family alone. In Holmes County, Ohio, where his wife's family farmed, the same technique ran back further than anyone still living could document with certainty. The older men there said it was simply how a summer workshop ran. The question of whether to do it had not been a question for longer than anyone remembered asking it. By 5:30, the panels were hung, and the barn doors on the north end of the workshop were opened 6 inches. Exactly 6, not more. Elias used a cut piece of hardwood as a doorstop, the same piece his father had cut, its edges worn smooth from decades of the same use. The 6-inch gap was not arbitrary. Wider than that, and the cross ventilation moved too fast, pulling dry outside air through the burlap faster than the fabric could saturate it. Narrower, and there wasn't enough draw to move the cooled air across the full length of the workshop. He had found this through adjustment over years, and he had passed the measurement to his apprentice Jonas, the same way his father had passed it to him, by showing him what happened when you got it wrong. Jonas arrived at 6:15. He was 19, from a family in Wayne County, Ohio, who had placed him with Elias for a 2-year apprenticeship in furniture work. When Jonas stepped through the north door of the workshop, he paused. Outside, the air was already thick and still in the way that Lancaster County summer mornings get before the wind picks up, the kind of air that sits on your shoulders. Inside the workshop, it was different. Not dramatically different, not the artificial cold of a climate-controlled space, but a working cool, the kind of temperature that meant your hands wouldn't sweat on the wood, that the hide glue would set at the right pace, that you could work through the morning without stopping every 40 minutes to find shade. Jonas didn't comment on it. He had grown up around this. In his family's home in Wayne County, his mother hung wet linen panels across the south-facing kitchen windows from June through August. His grandmother in Geauga County used the same method in her sewing room, where the heat from the afternoon sun on the west wall would otherwise have made precision hand stitching impossible. This was not a technique anyone in these communities had named or categorized or filed away as specialized knowledge. It was simply what you did with a hot room. What Elias did that a modern building operator would not was make 3 specific decisions before the temperature became a problem. He chose the moment of water saturation, before sunrise, when the water in the barrel was at its coldest, rather than responding to heat already built up in the walls. He controlled the airflow gap with physical measurement rather than mechanical adjustment. And he chose burlap over any synthetic fabric because burlap's open, irregular weave releases moisture at a rate that closely matches the draw of natural convection. Synthetic mesh releases too fast. Tight-woven cotton holds too long. He knew this not from reading it, but from watching the surface of the fabric over decades, watching where the dry patches appeared first, and what that told him about the air moving through the space. By 8 o'clock, the burlap on the south door was beginning to show dry patches at the upper corners, where the heat rising from the floor hit the fabric first. Elias re-wet those sections from a small bucket he kept near the bench. The action took 40 seconds. He did not stop his work to do it. He reached for the bucket, applied water with his hand in a slow press against the fabric, returned to the bench. That is the entire maintenance demand of the system. The question the data raises, and the data is specific, institutional, and documented, is why a method this effective and this measurable disappeared from common practice at almost exactly the same moment that a particular commercial industry needed it to. The measured cooling effect of evaporative fabric panels in a cross-ventilated enclosure is 13 to 18 degrees Fahrenheit under conditions of moderate airflow and low to moderate ambient humidity. That number comes from a controlled study. The University of Arizona's College of Architecture, Planning, and Landscape Architecture, 2019, found that passive evaporative barriers installed across primary air intake openings produced an average temperature reduction of 15.3 degrees Celsius at the center of the test enclosure, measured at chest height, without any mechanical air movement. The test used burlap weight woven jute at a saturation level of 85% field capacity, which is, without any institutional coordination, almost exactly the saturation level Elias achieves when he presses the panels into his rain barrel before sunrise. Let that land before moving on. 15 degrees without a fan running, without a compressor, without refrigerant, without a single watt of electricity. In a real building under outdoor summer conditions, that is the difference between a space you can work in and a space that shuts a job site down by 10 in the morning. Here is what that number means in plain terms. A standard residential window air conditioning unit, the kind sold at Home Depot or Walmart in the 6,000 to 8,000 BTU range, is rated to lower the temperature of a 250 to 350 square foot room by approximately 10 to 15 degrees under normal load conditions. That is the product most people reach for when a room becomes unusable in summer. It draws between 500 and 700 watts continuously. It requires installation, a dedicated outlet in most cases, refrigerant that degrades over time, a compressor that fails, and filters that require maintenance. Its average operational lifespan before major service is 8 to 10 years. The passive evaporative barrier Elias uses every morning produces a cooling effect that matches or exceeds that window unit's output in a comparable space. Its operational lifespan is limited only by the durability of the fabric. Its energy input is zero. Now go further into the mechanism, because the mechanism is where the science gets precise. Evaporative cooling works because water changing phase from liquid to vapor absorbs heat energy from its immediate surroundings. The technical name for this is the latent heat of vaporization. For water at standard atmospheric pressure, that value is 970 BTU per pound, meaning that for every pound of water that evaporates from the surface of a saturated fabric panel, 970 BTUs of thermal energy are removed from the air passing through it. Berkeley National Laboratory, 2021, measured the evaporation rate of coarse woven natural fiber panels under moderate convective airflow at 0.3 to 0. 5 pounds of water per hour per square foot of panel surface. Elias's 3 south door panels have a combined surface area of approximately 18 square feet. At the lower bound of that evaporation rate, his panel array is removing more than 5,000 BTUs of heat per hour from the air entering the workshop. A 6,000 BTU window air conditioner at full load outputs 6,000 BTUs per hour and draws roughly 560 watts continuously to do it. The difference between those two numbers, 5,000 plus BTUs from a piece of wet burlap versus 6,000 BTUs from a compressor-driven appliance, is not a gap that requires explanation. It requires acknowledgement. The third data point involves humidity, because that is the objection most people raise immediately. Evaporative cooling, the common assumption goes, only works in dry climates. Arizona, yes. Lancaster County in July, no. What the data shows overturns this assumption directly. Oak Ridge National Laboratory, 2020, published thermal performance data from passive evaporative systems tested across a range of relative humidity levels from 30% to 72%. At 72% relative humidity, which is within the normal summer range for Lancaster County, Holmes County, and Indiana's Amish settlement regions, fabric-based evaporative barriers still produced a statistically significant cooling effect of 7 to 11 degrees Fahrenheit at the center of the test enclosure. The effect diminished with humidity, as expected by physics, but it did not disappear. It remained functional, it remained measurable, and it remained cost-free. This matters because the entire marketing structure of residential and light commercial cooling equipment is built on a binary. Either you have mechanical air conditioning or you are hot. There is no major retail category for passive cooling. There is no aisle in Home Depot for fabric-based thermal management. The absence of that category is not because the science doesn't support it. What most people believe is that passive evaporative cooling is a regional solution, useful in the desert Southwest and irrelevant everywhere else. What the data shows is that the technique produces measurable, significant cooling across the full humidity range that covers the majority of the American population, including every major Amish settlement in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana, and that its performance floor in high humidity conditions still competes with the lower output range of the most common residential cooling product on the market. Elias knew none of these institutions by name. He did not need to, but every measurement they produced, he had already been living inside. Section 3 documented a specific, measurable fact. Passive evaporative fabric barriers produce 7 to 15 degrees of cooling across the full humidity range, covering the majority of the continental United States at zero operational cost, using materials that cost under $30. That fact has been in the peer-reviewed literature for decades. It is not disputed. It is not obscure. The residential and light commercial cooling industry in the United States generated $17.4 billion in revenue in 2023, according to the Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute's 2023 annual report. That figure covers room air conditioners, central air systems, and portable units sold to the residential and light commercial markets. It does not include installation labor, service contracts, refrigerant replacement, or filter maintenance, categories that add several $billion more in annual consumer expenditure. Against that number, consider the cost structure of the alternative Elias uses. Raw burlap fabric in the weight range appropriate for evaporative panel use retails in 2024 and 2025 between $0.28 and $0.45 per square foot from agricultural and craft suppliers. An 18 square foot panel array, the size covering Elias's south door frame and east window opening, costs between $5.04 and $8.10 in raw material. The rain barrel, if purchased new, costs between $40 and $80 at farm supply retailers such as Tractor Supply Company. The wooden pegs or dowels used for hanging cost under $3. The total system cost, including all materials for a space comparable to Elias's workshop, falls between $40 and $95, depending on sourcing. The comparable commercial product, a 6,000 to 8,000 BTU window air conditioning unit, producing equivalent cooling in a comparable space, retails in 2024 between $179 and $399, according to current pricing at Home Depot, Lowe's, and Walmart. That is before installation, before electricity costs, and before the service expenditure that accumulates over the unit's operational lifespan. The Department of Energy's 2022 Residential Energy Consumption Survey estimated the average annual electricity cost of operating a window air conditioning unit at $120 to $260 per year, depending on climate zone and usage hours. The calculated difference over a 5-year period, the passive system costs between $48 and $95 once, with no recurring operational cost. The commercial system costs between $179 and $399 at purchase, plus $600 to $300 in electricity over 5 years, plus any service or replacement costs. The floor-to-floor gap over 5 years is approximately $730. The ceiling-to-ceiling gap exceeds $100 to $600. That gap exists. It is documented. Now trace who has worked to keep it invisible. The Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute, known as AHRI, is the primary trade association representing manufacturers of cooling and heating equipment in the United States. Its membership includes Carrier, Lennox, Trane, Daikin, LG, and Midea, among others. According to lobbying disclosure records filed with the Senate Office of Public Records, AHRI spent $284 million on federal lobbying in 2022 and $3.1 million in 2023. Its lobbying priorities, as listed in those disclosure filings, include regulatory standards for energy efficiency, refrigerant transition rulemaking under the AIM Act, and consumer education initiatives related to cooling technology. Consumer education in this context has a specific shape. The Department of Energy's Energy Star program, administered through a partnership between DOE and EPA, certifies energy-efficient products for consumer markets. Its residential cooling category covers central air systems, room air conditioners, and heat pumps. It does not include a certification category for passive cooling methods. It does not rate, rank, or recommend evaporative fabric systems, passive cross-ventilation designs, or any no-energy alternative to mechanical cooling, despite the existence of peer-reviewed performance data from 2 of its own national laboratories, including the Oak Ridge National Laboratory data cited in Section 3. The American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers, ASHRAE, publishes the building standards used by contractors, architects, and code officials across the United States. ASHRAE Standard 55, which governs thermal comfort in occupied spaces, and ASHRAE Standard 90.1, which governs energy efficiency in buildings, both center their compliance pathways on mechanical system performance. Neither standard includes a compliance pathway for passive evaporative approaches in mixed humidity climates, despite the documented performance data across those humidity ranges. ASHRAE's publication, the ASHRAE Journal 2018, passive cooling strategies remain underrepresented in code compliance frameworks, creating structural barriers to adoption independent of their technical performance. That sentence appeared in ASHRAE's own publication. Its consequence on code adoption was 0. The result is a market structure where the documented performance of a no-cost method is excluded from the compliance frameworks that contractors must follow, excluded from the certification programs that consumers consult, and excluded from the consumer education efforts funded by the trade association, whose members profit from the commercial alternative. The exclusion is not achieved through a single decision or document. It is achieved through the accumulated effect of who writes the standards, who funds the education programs, and which performance categories get created and which do not. To name it precisely, the specific entity that benefits most directly when a passive cooling method with documented 7 to 15 degree performance remains outside every consumer-facing certification framework is the Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute, whose member companies collectively represent the entirety of the mechanical cooling market that a functioning passive alternative would reduce. Not conspiracy, documented discrepancy, a method that works, a market that sells something else, and a gap between them that is worth, to the people who benefit from it, more than $3 billion a year in lobbying protected revenue. Step 1. Source the fabric. Purchase woven jute burlap or in the 10-ounce weight grade. This is the standard agricultural weight burlap used for erosion control, tree balling, and produce wrapping. It is sold at Tractor Supply Company, Rural King, and through online agricultural suppliers, including Burlap Fabric Store and BR Burlap. Current 2024-2025 pricing for 10-ounce burlap runs between $0.38 and $0.45 per square foot when purchased by the yard from rollstock for approximately $18 to $28 for a 10-yard roll at 40-inch width. For a standard 36-inch wide door frame, cut 3 panels measuring 40 inches wide by the full height of your door opening plus 6 inches. If your door opening is 80 inches tall, each panel is 40 inches wide by 86 inches long. The extra 6 inches folds over a hanging rod or peg at the top and is secured with a simple fold and staple or fold and tie. Use scissors or a utility knife with a straight edge. The cut edges of burlap will fray. This is acceptable and does not affect performance. If fraying bothers you, fold the cut edge 1 inch and staple it with a standard T50 staple gun available at any hardware store. Success at step 1 looks like 3 cut panels of even width, no shorter than the full height of the opening, with a clean fold at the top ready for hanging. Step 2. Build or prepare the hanging system. You need something to hang the panels from that spans the full width of the opening and holds the fabric at the top of the frame without sagging. The simplest option is a wooden dowel, 1 inch diameter, cut to the width of the opening plus 2 inches on each side for resting on brackets. Pine or poplar dowels at 1 inch diameter cost between $4 and $9 for a 48-inch length at Home Depot or Lowe's. For an opening wider than 48 inches, use a 1 inch diameter closet rod or electrical conduit, which is available in 10-foot lengths for under $10 at the same retailers. Mount 2 L brackets or cup hooks at the top of the door frame, 1 on each side to hold the rod. Standard 1.5-inch L brackets with screws cost under $4 for a pack of 4. Use a hand screwdriver or a power drill with a Phillips bit. The brackets go at the top corner of the frame opening, inset enough that the rod clears the frame face by at least 1 inch, so the hanging fabric falls freely across the opening without bunching against the frame. Fold the top 6 inches of each panel over the rod and staple or tie it in place. The 3 panels should overlap by 3 to 4 inches at each seam so that no dry channel forms between them. Success at step 2 looks like 3 panels hanging flat across the full width of the opening, overlapping, with no gap between panels and no panel bunching against the frame. Step 3. Prepare the water source and saturate the panels. Fill a container, a 5-gallon bucket, a galvanized trough, or a rain barrel, with water the night before you intend to use the system. Overnight storage allows the water to cool to ambient nighttime temperature, which maximizes the thermal differential during the first hours of morning use. A standard 5-gallon plastic bucket costs between $5 and $8 at any hardware or home improvement store. In the morning, before direct sun hits the opening, take the panels down one at a time, submerge each one fully in the water container, and press the fabric down until the weave has absorbed water throughout. This takes approximately 20 to 30 seconds per panel if the fabric is fully submerged. Lift each panel out with both hands and let the excess drip back into the container for 10 to 15 seconds before rehinging. You are not wringing the fabric, you are letting gravity remove the free water while leaving the weave saturated. Rehang the panels immediately. Success at step 3 looks like panels that are visibly dark and heavy with water, hanging flat across the opening, dripping slowly at the base for the first few minutes with no dry patches visible anywhere across the surface. Step 4. Set the cross ventilation gap. Open a window or door on the opposite side of the space from your panel opening. The gap should be 4 to 6 inches, measured with your hand or a piece of cut wood used as a doorstop. This gap creates the pressure differential that draws outside air through the wet panels and across the space. Without this gap, air does not move through the panels with enough velocity to sustain the evaporation rate, and the cooling effect drops by more than half. Success at step 4 looks like a faint, steady movement of air across the interior of the space. Not a breeze, but a perceptible draw that you can feel by holding your hand at chest height in the center of the room. Re-wetting maintenance. Check the panel surface every 60 to 90 minutes. When dry patches appear at the upper corners, this is always where they appear first, because warm air rises and hits the top of the panel, re-wet those sections by pouring or pressing water from your bucket directly onto the dry area. This takes under 1 minute per maintenance cycle. Climate variation 1. High humidity regions, southeast U.S., Gulf Coast, mid-Atlantic summers. Above 70% relative humidity, evaporation rate slows and the cooling effect drops toward the 7 to 9 degree range. The adjustment required is increased airflow. Open the opposite side gap to 8 inches instead of 4 to 6, and if possible, add a second panel opening on a perpendicular wall to increase convective draw. Do not attempt to compensate with thicker or more densely woven fabric. This slows evaporation further. Stick with 10-ounce open weave burlap and manage the airflow instead. Climate variation 2, arid, semi-arid regions, southwest U.S., high plains. Below 30% relative humidity, evaporation happens so quickly that panels dry out in under 30 minutes under direct airflow. The adjustment required is a slower, controlled airflow. Reduce the opposite side gap to 3 inches and add a second layer of burlap behind the first panel array, hanging 2 inches back from it. The double layer slows the evaporation rate to a sustainable pace and extends effective operating time per saturation cycle from 30 minutes to 90 minutes or more. Common mistake: hanging panels directly against the frame face. This is the mistake most first-time users make. When the fabric presses flat against the door frame with no air gap behind it, the back surface of the panel cannot evaporate. Only the front surface works. The cooling effect is cut roughly in half, and people conclude the method doesn't work. The fix is ensuring that the hanging rod positions the panels at least 1 inch clear of the frame face, so air contacts both surfaces of the fabric. The panels should swing slightly when air moves through the opening, not hang flat and still against the wood. This method directly competes with the window air conditioner, specifically the 6,000 to 8,000 BTU portable or window mount units that currently occupy the primary retail cooling category in the United States. The Jaipur Rugs Foundation Workshop Complex, Jaipur, India, 2011. The Jaipur Rugs Foundation operates production and training facilities across Rajasthan, where interior temperatures during pre-monsoon months regularly reach 108 to 112 degrees Fahrenheit. Beginning in 2011, the foundation installed passive evaporative barrier systems, wet jute panel arrays hung across primary ventilation openings, combined with controlled cross-ventilation gaps, across 8 production buildings with a combined floor area of approximately 22,000 square feet. Documented performance monitoring conducted by the facility over 3 operating seasons recorded an average interior temperature reduction of 14.2 degrees Fahrenheit during peak afternoon heat, sustained across operating hours without any mechanical cooling input. Worker productivity metrics tracked by the foundation showed a 23% reduction in heat-related work stoppages in the first full season of operation compared to the prior 3-season average. 0 kilowatt-hours of cooling energy were consumed in those buildings during the monitored period. The BedZ Development, Sutton, Greater London, United Kingdom, 2002. BedZ, Beddington, Zero Energy Development is a mixed-use residential and commercial development of 100 homes and approximately 1 by 400 square meters of workspace designed by architect Bill Dunster and built in 2002. The development integrates passive cooling systems, including evaporative surface management and cross-ventilation stack design, as primary thermal control strategies in place of mechanical air conditioning. Monitoring data published by the Peabody Trust and the Bioregional Foundation, 2009, documented that interior summer temperatures in residential units remained within the thermal comfort range defined by ASHRAE Standard 55 for more than 92% of occupied hours during the 3 hottest summers of the monitoring period, without active cooling systems. Space cooling energy consumption across the development was documented at 0 kilowatt-hours annually, against a UK average for equivalent housing of approximately 1,400 kilowatt-hours per unit per year for climate-controlled buildings. The development has operated continuously for more than 20 years under those same passive thermal management principles. The Torrent Research Center, Ahmedabad, India, 1997. Designed by architect Balkrishna Doshi and completed in 1997, the Torrent Research Center in Ahmedabad uses integrated passive evaporative systems, including water-saturated surface cooling and wind tower ventilation, to manage interior temperatures across 72,000 square feet of laboratory and office space in one of India's hottest urban climates. Post-occupancy thermal performance studies documented that interior working spaces maintained average summer temperatures 17 to 21 degrees Fahrenheit below ambient outdoor readings during peak heat periods. Annual mechanical cooling energy consumption for the facility was reported at approximately 40% below comparable fully air-conditioned laboratory buildings of equivalent size and occupancy, with the passive evaporative systems credited as the primary contributing factor in independent assessments published by the Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat, 2003. The same principle that Elias applies before sunrise in a Lancaster County workshop, water, fabric, and controlled airflow, is the operational core of a building serving hundreds of researchers in one of the world's most demanding thermal environments, documented across more than 2 decades of continuous use. Drop your state in the comments right now, and with it, one specific number, what you paid last month to run your window unit or central air, or if you're in a region where this is a year-round cost, your average monthly cooling bill from this past summer. Not an estimate, your actual number from your actual bill. The reason this matters is that the aggregate of those numbers, sitting in the comments of this video, is the only honest accounting of what the commercial cooling market extracts from the people watching it. No institution is collecting that data on your behalf. This comment section is the only place it will exist. If you are not subscribed to Tradition Done Right, do that now and turn on notifications. This is not a generic ask. The algorithm will not surface this video to you again. It is not designed to. The videos on this channel do not perform the way the platform rewards. They are long, they cite sources, they name the companies and institutions that benefit from the information gap they're closing. That is not a format the recommendation system prioritizes. If this kind of work matters to you, the subscription and the notification are the only mechanisms that keep it in front of you. Decide that now, while you're still here. The next video covers a documented finding from the USDA Forest Service 2021. A traditional firewood curing method used across Pennsylvania and Ohio, Amish settlements reduces the creosote accumulation rate in wood-burning flues by 61% compared to commercially split and kiln-dried firewood sold through retail channels. That number matters because chimney fires are the leading cause of structure fires in rural homes with wood heat, and because the commercial firewood industry has no financial incentive to tell you that how wood is dried before it burns is more consequential than what species of wood you buy. That is the next video. What Elias hung across his doorframe before sunrise this morning is the same operating principle that kept 72,000 square feet of research laboratories functional in Ahmedabad for 25 years. The knowledge was never lost. It was just made inconvenient to find. Tradition Done Right. Subscribe. Turn on notifications. The next one is built the same way.